Hey folks, Brendan here from Bluelight. Now today I'm going to be speaking to the serving officers among you. So if you are a potential recruit, hey, you might just find this interesting. But one of the things I've been doing over the past several months, I've been focusing on helping serving officers to develop, because I realised that so many of you have been successful through Bluelight's recruitment courses, for the online assessment centre, search assessment centre, day one, final interviews. You've all been successful, you've all got those warrant cards in your pocket, and now you're in service and you're struggling a little bit, not with the actual job itself, but working out where next and how do I get there. And so I put together a 5-step process that will enable you to do it, that is far simpler than PDR. You can put it on half a page, just like that, as opposed to 36 pages of PDR guidance. And let's face it, most of you just sort of dust off PDR once a year. Try and dodge it if you can. It's fairly meaningless. So we've got to make sure that the career development process you follow is actually meaningful for you and is both fulfilling and successful for you, so that you actually achieve what you want to achieve first time round. So one of the ways we're doing this is through one-to-one coaching and also through weekly workshops in the Enforce Advancement group. And I'll share some links to those services for you down below. I just want to talk to you about some learning, just sharing some learning with you if I can, just sharing some learning with you from what came out of the weekly workshop last night, although I think some of the heads were spinning a little bit, thinking, oh, this is a bit different, and also some one-to-one coaching I did today. Now, these are mostly PC to sergeant candidates. Some individuals are just going for specialist roles, and some individuals are going for sergeant to inspector. So there's some themes emerging, folks, some themes emerging in your preparation, as in you're not preparing. So you are applying for the rank of sergeant, you're applying for the specialist position, you're applying for the rank of inspector, but you're leaving your preparation until the last minute almost. And when I say last minute, I'm talking about a couple of months before you're bored, or a couple of months before you need to submit your application form. If you've got your eyes set on a specialist position, or you've got your eyes set on promotion, the time to start preparing is now. Because one of the big bits of learning that's emerging from everyone so far, from all the weekly workshops and all the one-to-one coaching I've been doing, is how people are describing in their answers when we do the practicing how good they are at doing their day job. And it's a bit the same. And it's not extraordinary, and it's not demonstrating that you're standing out for any reason. Now, if we just look at the Police Service of Northern Ireland, I know that there's going to be, I think there's something like 500 people going for PC to sergeant, and there's something like 250 to 300 vacancies. Now, that's still quite competitive, and they're not going to lower the standards, even though those standards are incredibly subjective, and even though the people who are applying those standards probably understand the competency and values framework just as much as you do. But they're still not going to lower the standards. So what they'll be looking for is a candidate that's going to stand out. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what that might involve in this video, and some of the bits of learning that are emerging. So top 5 or so things that are emerging. First one is structure. So when you are delivering your interview answer, you're delivering it in a way that feels like you're telling one of your work chums, work chum? Do we have work chums in the police? One of your work chums about some good job that you dealt with the day before. It's not got the structure that they're looking for, the sort of specific situation, the impact if that issue wasn't dealt with, what your aim was, what options you considered to achieve that aim, why you chose the option that you did, what was your rationale, the actions that you took, not just what you did, but the specifics of how, and what the result was. And don't try and pretend that everything in the world that you touch turns to gold, because it doesn't. And the people who are interviewing you know that as well. They've been in your rank, they've been in your position, they know exactly what it's like. And then the learning. What is it that you've learned from all of this? And then the knowledge and understanding, why is this behaviour, this value so important to that role, to that rank? That's the sort of structure that you'd be looking for. And that leads me into the second thing that's emerging as an issue, and that's the how. The how. What people are doing is they're skipping over what they did. Say, I liaised with some of my fellow workmates. I arranged a meeting with partner agencies, and what came out of that was, well, that's what you did. How did you do it? How did you manage that down to the minute level of the sort of questions you asked people, the challenges you gave them, the instructions you gave them, and why? And what their response was, and how you managed that response, and how you managed a difficult situation where someone didn't want to get involved. And that's the how. And remember, you're going to get like 6 questions and you've got an hour for your board. Do the math. Just do the math. They're going to be talking for about 5 minutes, which means that you are going to be talking for, not very good at maths, 8 to 9 minutes. That's a lot of talking, folks. And so far, a lot of your answers just aren't up to it. You're not describing what you did and how you did it in sufficient detail. Because it's that detail that's going to enable them to be able to mark you against the behaviours in their marking guide. Even though they don't understand the marking guide that much, they've got someone from HR next to them who can help explain it to them and help steer them a little bit post-interview, post-board, because invariably there is someone there from HR, although there doesn't have to be. And I know certainly in my promotion exam to promotion board to both sergeant and inspector, there was no one there from HR. Last time I saw anyone at HR for an interview was the last interview I had for a specialist position at headquarters before I retired in the strategic change branch. There you go. We love big titles like that, don't we? So how? Right, the other thing that's emerging, this is number 3. I said top 5, didn't I? I think we're going to make top 5 here. The other the top third thing is how you are describing that you're an awesome PC, but you're going for the rank of sergeant. You're describing how awesome you are as a constable. You're not describing your promise as an awesome sergeant. So you've got to get out, you've got to nudge yourself out of this samey thing that you're doing. A lot of my candidates are saying, I'm not standing out because, to quote here, I'm just talking about what I do on a day-to-day basis and what's expected of me in that role. Well, we've got to push ourselves a little bit, and that's what we were talking about last night in the workshop. This model here is something called Appreciative Inquiry. It's an organisational development model where we focus on what's working and what's positive in an organisation as opposed to what's broken and what's wrong, which is what we tend to do in the police. So we just talked, the sort of questions that you would ask, and we actually role-played it out. I think there's a few sort of bits of disorientation going on, but there always is when there's a little bit of new learning. But we played out how you would manage as a sergeant the difficulties around the niche system. I know a lot of you use niche, and a lot of you are pulling your metaphorical hair out with niche. But what came out of it was some awesome ideas about that came from the constables as we were role-playing it, that could be put to the inspector to improve the way niche is used by those people who use it. And it was by focusing on the capabilities within the team and the innovation within the team, and the drive to actually change the way they were doing things came from the team. Because I know that if you try and impose something from the top down, well, 10% of it might stick. You might be in charge, but you're not in control. So Appreciative Inquiry, this model here, really good way of enabling people to come up with ideas. And in terms of the CVF, this would definitely tick the boxes for emotionally aware, deliver, support and inspire, innovative and open-minded, working collaboratively, a whole range of values and competencies there for you. So think differently, do things differently, so that when you are at your interview, you can describe how you've done something or how you will do something in a way that's going to stand out, and not just stand out, but nail it in terms of the behaviours. Is this making sense, folks? I hope so. I mean, let me know in the comments below if you disagree with me or think what I'm talking about is total nonsense. I'm not always right, but what I have got is over 20 years of experience of coaching and supporting people to succeed, not just in promotion boards, but specialist interviews and in recruitment. So actually it's over 20 years, my goodness. It is now probably pushing 30 years easily, 30 years of supporting people. So what else can we talk about that is emerging? So from the one-to-one today, yeah, we were talking about deliver, support and inspire. This is an individual who's in a neighbourhood role, and what he said, his original suggestion was how he supported a probationary officer to help them develop their stop and search skills, but then he kind of admitted that everyone's going to be using something like that. And it's boring. And basically it just tells the board, yes, here I am, an awesome tutor constable. So what we came up with instead is a couple of ideas around taking responsibility for something that is a problem and a headache for the sergeant that involves multiple agencies. So that was one thing we looked at. And the other thing that we looked at, which I think has got some legs here, is, so one of the things I asked him was, which partner agency do you have most difficulty working with? Social services. I think I could ask that question in any force and probably get social services. But do we truly understand why they are refusing to come to meetings or refusing to cooperate? Or it's not that they're refusing, they're just not engaging. Do we understand why? So we suggested spending a couple of hours in their shoes, just going to join them to find out what it's like from their perspective, what it is like to be a social worker, and what sort of challenges and issues do they deal with, and what do they really think of the police. And then investing in the emotional bank account. This is something I used a lot as a neighbourhood inspector. Investing in the emotional bank account, and this was where I offer support to individuals within an organisation before they need to ask for it. So I'm asking them questions like, so if I could give you any support whatsoever, what would that be? Or behind my back, what are the things that you chunner about to each other about what the police should be doing more of? If we could have the best relationship ever, working relationship ever, what sort of things would I be doing to support you? So lots of questions like that. And then when they say, actually, we've got a problem with this that you might be able to help with, I'm all over it like a rash. Now, the beauty of this is that when I need support from them, all I need to do is give them a phone call. And they will remember the time that I offered that support without them needing to ask for it, and they will give it willingly. Now, you might be thinking, how's that going to help me with my promotion? Well, one, it's the right thing to do because you've got to build up these relationships. If these relationships are in tatters, someone's got to take that first step to repair them. Secondly, you look at things like deliver, support and inspire. At level 2, the behaviours, I'm going to read this out for you. I identify barriers that inhibit performance in my teams and take steps to resolve these, thereby enabling others to perform. Now, it also ticks other boxes, but I'm not going to go into those, but that's the main one. You've gone beyond your team. You've seen the team as the community safety partnership. How do you think that will be viewed by your superintendent or chief inspector who's interviewing you? What do you think? I think they'll like it. I think you'll stand out. I think if you use models like Appreciative inquiry to get ideas from the team that they're going to own, and you're just going to enable them as opposed to instruct them, I think you'll stand out. And there's a lot of other things that we can do as well to stand out from the crowd and demonstrate to those people who are interviewing you that I am going to be an awesome sergeant or inspector. Because I've seen some of the feedback that you've had, and quite honestly, it bears no resemblance to the competency and values framework. It bears a lot of resemblance to their personal opinions on whether your answer was up to the standard that they're looking for, whatever standard that might be. And I know you're going to say, that's really subjective, it's so unfair. Hey, get over it. Because they can't set up an exam board. We talked about this with my client today. They haven't got the time, they haven't got the resources, they haven't got the expertise to do that. I know it's hard to do. I went back to university in the in the early noughties, studied for a master's in education where I focused on personnel evaluation systems. I qualified as an MVQ assessor, MVQ internal verifier, and I did some work towards external verification. Didn't actually get that qualification, but I've set up a virtual college with all of the systems and processes needed to deliver qualifications to Ofqual's requirements. It's not easy. So you are never going to get, without investing vast amounts of money, resources, time and expertise that you don't have, you're never going to get what you're looking for. You're never going to get that sort of level parity, that lack of subjectivity in the promotion process. You're always going to get people disagreeing with each other. Example of that from the client today, gave what I thought was an awesome example of integrity once he explained more of the how, but he'd run that by a chief inspector and run it by an inspector, and one said, great example of integrity, and the other one said, nah, that's not going to work. So that's how subjective it is, folks. So you've got to stand out, and this is how we're going to do it. I think we've covered 5 things there. Did I say 5 things that you need to do? Anyway, that's around 5, isn't it? I could probably go on and cover about 20, but it's 15 minutes into this video now. So that's enough, isn't it? That's enough. Anyway, if you want to find out more about these, how to get on these weekly workshops, how to get on these one-to-ones, there's a link below for you. And I hope to see you at one of them. It'd be awesome. Come and join us. Come and explore how you can get yourself over those 5, 6 things that I mentioned. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.